welcoming in House Republican Leader Vincent Candelora. Representative Candelora, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
I'm well. So, I mean, basically, you're quoted as saying, more good than bad. I mean, this is a later question, but it's funny because a lot of the proposals are sort of, you close your eyes, they're sort of Republican type proposals. So the question is, let me just start with a basic question, which is what do you like in the budget and what don't you like?
Yeah, I mean, I think the governor hit a lot of marks. His tax package is addressing the unaffordability of Connecticut for the lower and middle class people. So I think those reforms are much needed, and they're coming at a time when we have the money to do it. So Republicans are very pleased with that tax package. I think his budget is also recognizing that the federal money is going away, which does create a cliff in a lot of circumstances. So he's sort of gently trying to wean off a lot of our agencies and, higher education in particular, from all the money that they've gotten. So I think it's a bit of a compassionate budget, but it recognizes we've got a right-sized government after COVID and reduce spending. So those were just the general areas I think have a lot of good. And I think you're going to hear a lot of people complaining and claiming that they've received cuts, but in reality, they're cuts from very large federal dollars that were temporary to begin with.
Right. It's like when professional sports owners say we're losing money more often than not, it just means they're making less money than the previous year. They're still making money.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I understand the concept really well. We're talking with House Republican Leader Vincent Candelora here on Bryan & Company and WTIC News Talk 1080. That's a question I don't know the answer to. So I maybe you don't either, but when will the Connecticut budget, economy, coffers not have any more injections of federal money outside of the infrastructure stuff?
Well, right now it's happened, and I think with a split Congress in D.C., I don't think you're going to see the tranches continuing. The state of Connecticut, I think, has about $400 million of federal money that is still being allocated among agencies and to higher ed and things of that nature, but the money is slowly running out. So I would say by 2024, the end of 2024, we won't see any additional federal money infused into our budget.
And without that, the budget, if revenues stay steady with these tax cuts, we can, as a state, be in the black?
Yeah, I mean, I think this governor's budget is sort of looking forward and right-sizing us, so in the future we will be in the black.
Okay.
If we try to maintain all this spending and supplant all the federal money, I think we're coming very close to getting back into the red. And so that's sort of going to be the struggle with crafting this budget. How much spending can we really afford in the future?
I spent, just for context, I was in Connecticut from 98 to 07, and then I came back in 19, so I haven't been through too many budget cycles, since I've been back. How much of what gets proposed, now you have a Democratic governor with a Democratic dominant state capital, how much that gets proposed gets passed? I mean, I know it's going to be a whole bunch of hearings, but does this get rubber stamped, or is there going to be a lot of changes?
Well, it depends on the administration and the legislature and how we negotiate. I will say that Republicans are probably a lot closer to the governor's budget than they will be to what the Democrats propose. What was interesting yesterday is the amount of standing ovations that the Democrats gave him. You would think that they would just pass the budget as is, but I suspect that's not going to happen. It's going to be a very long process, and I think the budget, my prediction is, the Democrats are going to propose something very different from what the governor wants. And you will probably see Republicans lining up to a budget that's much closer to what Governor Lamont is proposing.
So you think they'll try to inject more spending?
Yeah, I do. I think they're going to try to take it all the way to the end and please everybody for as long as possible. And I think the danger in that is that this money is going away quickly. And so to try to use surpluses from this budget year, which we have quite a hefty surplus of about $3.1 billion, and move it into next year to spend more money, which is what I fear, that is going to put us in a position of potentially falling into deficit in the out years. So we don't want to. We want to learn from our mistakes and not repeat it. And I think this governor has been very disciplined. He's still paying down the pension debt. We have other things like GAP debt, which is an accounting debt that he's paying down to take that off the books. So there's a lot of things that we should be doing now that we have all this money to again, right-size government, to pay down our bond indebtedness, our unfunded liabilities. So Connecticut isn't looking at tax increases 2 or 3 years from now.
No, he didn't mention anything about his gun proposals. Are those proposals in the budget too, or those separate pieces of legislation?
Those type of proposals kind of will fall outside the budget. I imagine they will get separate votes. And I imagine that, they'll be controversial along party lines. So they'll probably fall outside the budget. He does have funding for gun trafficking task force, which is in the budget. So some of those gun reforms are in there, but to the extent of limiting purchasing of guns and eliminating concealed carry, those things will be a separate bill.
And last question, we're talking with Vince Candelora here, House Republican Leader. When do the public hearings start?
So the public hearings on the budget will be in appropriations. Typically, those start in late March. So we'll probably be kicking off right after February. You'll start hearing about the schedule, and I think they start through about mid-March.
Well, listen, we really appreciate the time, and it'll be an interesting process moving forward. And have a great day.